what's your earnest, logical, I mean, before we go into what's your earnest, logical assessment of this 50% tariff on telecoms?
Yes. Thank you so much for the question. The challenge is not really the increment in telecoms. Yeah. That is a symptom of a problem. Because as a company or an entity that operates in a macroeconomic environment, you want to make profit, right? So for you to be able to make profit, there are two determinants. There's what we call the marginal revenue. There's what we call the marginal cost. All right? So the marginal revenue, or rather, let me use broad term, revenue and cost. So revenue is the amount of cash, in quotes, so that people will, the laymen who are not economists will understand. The amount of inflow, the money you make, is the revenue. So when you sell your goods, how much have you made? When you render your services, how much are they paying for it? So to be able to maximize your profit, you have to do what? You have to increase your revenue. So, and you keep cost constant. So if that happens, or low. So if that happens, you are going to make profit, right? But another way to also make profit is this. When your revenue is also constant and you reduce cost. So when you lower your cost, you will still make good profit. So this is why I'm giving this analogy. And that has been the position of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. Sometime last year, and Arise was quite present, we addressed a World Press Conference where we identified a root cause that will trigger a lot of increment in social services. And that was our FX, which is our exchange rate. You know, at the time, there was a country in Africa that they were using wheelbarrow to carry money to buy a loaf of bread, is Zimbabwe, right? The reason is because the exchange rate of between that and the USD went above the roof. So now, what we have advocated is this, that the cost of their operations in Naira equivalent is going up. The reason that cost is going up, remember, let's assume your revenue is constant. So if your costs keep going up, to make profit, what will you do? You adjust your revenue up. If your costs keep going up, you move your revenue up in order to make profit. Because if your cost now outweighs your revenue, you are going to make a loss. So for these businesses, they are increasing revenue. And the best way of increasing revenue is increasing the price of goods that they are selling. In this case, telecoms. So if telecoms today, and in doing that, it will pass the burden to the people. So what we said last year, and we reiterated it today in the NAC, National Administrative Council meeting of TUC, held here. So this was our position, that our Naira, when our Naira was sliding down, when it was being devalued, we argued that if you leave this unchecked, that what is going to happen is that it's going to trickle down to literally everything. So February last year, we had a World Press Conference and we generated a communique that we passed on to the SGF himself. We passed it on to him and other ministers of government, they were there. We told them that if this was not checked as of January, that by December, we are going to have hyperinflation and the cost of things are going to exacerbate. In fact, we made some far-reaching recommendations in that document last year. So today, we reviewed the state of the economy. We looked at different sectors, electricity sector, the road tariff that is about coming, the telecoms tariff. So we reviewed everything. And we pointed the root cause again to the FX. Because that is why the cost of operation is actually increasing. Because these people, what was the price of AGO, for example, diesel, about 2 years ago? We were buying diesel 2 years ago, less than 300 Naira. What is the cost of diesel today? About 8,200. What is responsible for this cost? Simply because two things contribute to the price of petroleum product largely. One is your exchange rate. Second is the price of crude in international market. And the price of crude has been relatively constant. What has moved in the last 3 years greatly is the exchange rate. So that is why you buy your AGO today for 1,200. So these telecom base stations, they use AGO to fire their operations across the nook and cranny of the country. So they were buying AGO before at about 300 naira per liter. But today they are buying AGO at about 1,200 naira per liter. So what is this? Sorry, let me land on this. What this has done effectively is that it has increased their cost of operation. So this is their cost of, so for you to now make profit, what will you now do naturally is to increase revenue. So that you will still make profit. So what we are advocating,
increase price to
yes, yes. I mean, yes, because you increase price to get more revenue. Yeah. So once you increase to get more revenue, in order for your revenue to be higher than your cost. For you to still make profit. So that is the analogy. What we said was this: Naira today is currently undervalued. It has been said. CBN governor agreed to that. Local expert, financial expert, they all agreed to that. And we know that CBN has the tools to be able to manage this much more effectively. Nigeria has been an import-dependent country. So what has changed in the last 2 years to today? It is actually because there was a will to devalue the naira. So that is the root cause of the challenge, of the problem. So what we have said is that the fair value of naira is somewhere between 800 to 1,000 naira. And they all knew this. And CBN has the tool to be able to wield us to this point. So when this happens, what will now happen is that base station or that telecom provider that today is buying AGO for 1,200 naira per liter, when the cost of when the exchange rate comes down to sub 1,000, he will be buying it for about 600.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is that there is a root cause.
Yes.
Address the root cause. We don't need to increase these prices.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about, you've suspended this protest for 2 weeks. 5 from your side, 5 from the government side, to meet within 2 weeks and come out with something that is acceptable to both the operators and the consumers. But Ajero, when I interviewed him, I said, we're not against, if there must be, if there's a need, So if there must be, what is your organization looking at in terms of percentage?
Yeah, so both TUC and NLC, we are 2 different labor centers.
Yeah.
So we have adopted 2 different strategies. So NLC is strong on looking at that symptom, how will it be addressed? But on our path, we are strong on, because if we keep chasing symptoms and we don't look at the root cause, I will tell you that today they will come, they can adjust, bring it to 20%, right? In the next 6 months, there will be need for them to also jack it up. That is where the problem is. So for us, our focus really over this year, in fact in the last 1 year, has been on addressing the root cause. Because you see the analogy I gave?
Yeah, which makes sense, really.
So for us,
because if you cut the trees at the stem or the leaves and leave the root, it's going to grow back.
Exactly, it's going to grow. So now, for us, it's not just in telecoms alone. If we don't manage our FX regime very well, I will tell you that what is going to happen is that the cost will reverberate across all sectors. Is it electricity? Is it, today we are in telecoms. It goes over and over again. The reason today that if you are coming from the airport to town, Abuja airport to town, it's about 30,000 naira. So the reason is because the cost of operation has gone up. The reason is PMS today is selling for approximately 1,000 naira. We have said from TUC that the challenge we are having is not principally the regulation of PMS, but the challenge majorly is the mismanagement of the FS regime. Do you know that when the president announced that subsidy was gone, then what was the exchange rate? 450 naira to $1. If that exchange rate was still at that range today, we would have been buying PMS for less than 300 naira.
Yeah, because Bosso, for example, the Minister of Digital Economy, he says it is necessary so the telecoms operations will not die because of what he called pressure.
Yes.
Cost pressure.
Cost pressure,
that's
correct.
what he said.
Cost pressure. So how do you address that cost pressure? So to be able to address that cost pressure, what you do is to look at what is contributing to that cost. So today, we have identified what is contributing to that cost. One, these telecom stations, they use AGO to fire their bases, right? These telecom stations, they import their base stations from abroad. They pay for the base stations with USD, correct? So these stations, their operations, their spare parts are in USD. So now that USD is converted to local currency. And what is the rate with which you convert it? The rate with which you convert it today is 1,500. So that is the cost. To bring down that cost in Naira, what you now need to do is for you to now reduce the exchange rate. If, for example, an equipment that they use in telecoms is being imported, let's say $100,000, you are bringing it in. So as of today, that particular equipment will cost you 160 million Naira, correct? But if you are now bringing in that equipment and the exchange rate is 900, it's going to cost you 90 million. You have reduced the price or the cost. Once you reduce the cost, you don't need to jack up your revenue. That means you don't need to jack up the price. So if that happens, you will still make the same profit or even much more. So what we are saying is this. For government to be able to address all these escalating prices, we are even talking today of utilities. I will talk about our homes. Our homes. Look at your cost of television, the price of your television that you buy. Was it the same 3 years ago? Look at the price of your air conditioning unit. Your cameras here, the prices have moved by ×3. Nobody is talking about that, right? But to be able to address that, once you address that FS regime, that exchange rate, you will achieve maximum result. We strongly believe that government has the tool to be able to address that. They did that between August 2023 and October 2023, where they brought the chief executives of all the banks in Nigeria, and they read the riot act to them, telling them that the fair value of Naira is sub 800 Naira, and that they must maintain it at that rate. If you check, between June, July, it was sliding down. It was sliding down officially in the parallel market. But when they had that meeting, then all transactions, once you do a bid that is over 800 Naira, the banks will reject, because the government felt that that is the fair range. So we know strongly that government has the tool to be able to move where the current exchange rate is today downward significantly.
So that's what you want CBN to do?
Yes, correct.
Well, somebody was arguing that aside telecoms, there was a time the TUC, the NLC were against tolling.
Yes.
It didn't have anything to do with exchange rate. So what were you doing?
Yes. So for that of tolling, today in our National Administrative Council meeting in TUC, our position was very clear. Today, most of our roads are not motorable, right? Most of our roads, they are in the state of despair. You have potholes, so why would you not want to tie... Tolling is good. We are not against tolling.
Isn't it
generally
the reason for the tolling to get the money to repair the roads?
The chicken and the egg approach. Why don't you bring investors, right? Today, there is an investor that is building road from Lagos to Calabar, right? Starting from Lagos, right? So why can't you bring similar investors, ask them to fix Lokoja Abuja Road, ask them to fix Kanu Meduguri Road, ask them to fix Kanu Kaduna Road, then once the roads are okay, you can make it 6 lanes, 8 lanes.
Okay,
once they are okay,
listen to
then
this.
they could now toll. I mean,
listen to this statement based on what you're saying,
yes,
and everything we're discussing. Tijani again says that the reason is not just, you've given the cost analysis and revenue analysis, and the exchange rate challenge, if it could be brought down, which makes sense, all right. But he's saying that part of why this is being done is to also improve on infrastructure. So it's not just about revenue alone, to improve, to build infrastructure
we are still around the same circle. What do you need to build infrastructure? You need equipment. How do you buy that equipment? It's actually from your retained earnings. Where do you get your retained earnings from? It's from your profit, right? So these companies need to make good profit. use part of that profit, pay some to shareholders, right? Which is okay. Use the other one to buy infrastructure. So it's the same. So we are not challenging the profit. What we are challenging is that the cost of operations of these businesses must be brought down. We are talking about this. Have we looked at the manufacturing sector? Do you know what they suffer to clear equipment from the port? Go and check the cost of clearing a 40-feet container in January 2023. And go and check today the cost of clearing same 40-feet container. You heard today that the president has sent a bill to the National Assembly, I think yesterday, to increase the budget. That customs had made more money. FROIS had made more money. Where did this money come from? Customs normally, they facilitate business. They are not really revenue generating agencies. But what has happened over time is that the customs, because of the exchange rate of 1,500, before now, to clear a 40-feet container, let's assume it's $5,000, and the exchange rate was 500. So you are going to clear it with somewhere around 2.5 million naira. But today, it is still same $5,000. But the exchange rate today is 1,500 plus. So that means you will clear that same container that you used to clear for 2.5 million naira. You are not clearing it for 7.5 million naira. So what that means is that customs is going to make much more money off that. So this has greatly affected the manufacturing sector in Nigeria. Right. So we are talking about telecoms. Go and look at the cost of production in manufacturing. So the solution that we have proposed, when implemented, we know that government can actually implement it if they have the will to do it. When implemented, we won't be talking about telecoms alone. We'll be talking about agric, because the cost of machineries today has gone up. The cost of fertilizers has gone up.
Modernization.
Then, yes, if you also look at the manufacturing sector, their cost of equipment, it's all gone up because of that evil of devaluation. So that is why we are focusing on that root cause, because it cuts across all sectors and subsectors of the Nigerian economy.
Okay, before I let you go, when I was with Jero here, he said that who is talking for the masses? Government is speaking for the investors. Who is speaking for the masses? And I asked him, okay, but the masses, or some Nigerians, are saying that Labour, both TUC and NLC, Nigerians no more rely on them because they have become almost what you call a toothless bulldog, and they just go there for their interest, and that's
so absolutely. Anybody can have his own opinion, but I will tell you clearly that our primary responsibility is to our members. That is the truth. We don't shy away from that. The primary responsibility, the constituents, that's our primary responsibility, is our members. Let me ask you a question. In the United States of America, do you know what their labor center is? You don't know. In the UK, do you know the name of their labor center? You are very vast. You will not know. But in the UK, you are hearing about a Conservative Party and and Labour Party. So when Conservative is in power, the Labour Party checks them. All you hear is Labour debate in the House. If you go to the US today, who are the people now checking Donald Trump? It's actually who? The Democratic Party. They are the ones that are following and checking. So we as Labour, we will do the best we can do. But the people that are primarily responsible to put government on check majorly are the opposition parties. So it is the failure of the opposition parties that is even putting much more pressure on us. If you go to the developed world, you will not hear anything about labor centers. You know what they do? They are with management in the boardrooms negotiating pay increase for their members. So I still double as president of Pengasan. Let me end here. As president of Pengasan, when you go to Pengasan today, they will tell you, our members will tell you, the harvest that we have been bringing in. Because this devaluation that has happened, we have gone to negotiate for our people. In some cases, we've given them 250% increment, 300% increment, and much more. But the people will not know that. Only Pengasan members will know, because we are not on the street to advertise what we are doing. So clearly, our members have strong confidence in us that we are very prepared to deliver them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.